Greetings and salutations, this is Jarsz, the biggest YouTuber ever! And good morning, Jarsals! Welcome to another edition of the Daily Jarsz for Monday, the 6th of November, 2023. Hope you had a great weekend, nearly as great as my belly. A special shout out to those that clicked subscribe over the weekend. Welcome to the world of Jarsz. I hope you enjoy the show. And thus, the best mango is Bowen mangoes. Bowen is not too far from me. Being Monday today, we're having our fortnightly look at Level Earth Observer and seeing what tosh he's lacked the embarrassment to put out since we last looked at him. But before I get into him, I want to thank my YouTube members. And thank you once again for all that you do for me, and thanks for being part of the huge Jarsz movement. And before I get into Adam, a correction. I responded to it in the chat, but in the live stream on Saturday, Stringer News one of my members and a wonderful supporter of many creators in the community, used one of his member super chats. I responded to it in the chat yourself, as you can see, but all super chats are supposed to be read out, and unfortunately the flow of the show caused me to miss doing that. So here it is. He said, and 27 months, that's a big commitment. Thank you, Stringer News one. He said he's a big Jarsol, and I love big Jarsols. Well done. Remember, if you're a member, you get a free super chat every month, which helps me to recognize your length of membership. Plus, I always love to hear from you. And if you want to give a regular super chat, member or otherwise, feel free to do that too, and I'll read it out. I don't do this for the money. If you saw how much I take off YouTube for all this effort, you'd be in no doubt about that. I mean, this is episode 15. I'm yet to break the US $50 mark. However, I do appreciate you wanting to give me any of your hard-earned money in response to the work that I do to put in to hopefully giving you some entertainment, laughing at these idiots. And that encourages me to keep going. And if you're not in the position to make a financial donation, you can help the channel by sharing the video on social media. There are plenty of Facebook groups where my stuff could be shared, for example. Or share it on the X platform. That does wonders for the almighty algorithm. All hail the algorithm. Click the like button or subscribe if you haven't as well. It all helps the huge Jarsz movement, and I thank you all for those who try to help out in some way. On to Leo, or Adam, as is his real name. And I'm sorry to report that Adam is starting to get even more boring. Hard to imagine, I know. He just repeats the same old falsehoods and misunderstandings, as you'll see. He claims to be a demonstrable realist, but never demonstrates anything. He ignores what he sees in reality and is the king of incredulity. He seems completely incapable of understanding that arguments from incredulity are no argument whatsoever. Let's have a look at a recent pile of his gaslighting propaganda attempting to convince idiots of nonsense. Oh, hang on, I've got to get rid of that screen first. Not that one. Here we go. Sorry about this.
Just quickly want to share a few experiences I've had with globe-believing professors. The first was with a guy called Brian, I think it was Myers. The conversation quickly descended into him calling me childish names, calling me a thruff, a pancake earther. I simply asked for a physical demonstration that would suggest tower cranes could be dead still and plumb. I got no practicality. I just got called names, and he got more and more childish as the interaction went on and decided to pull the plug.
I wonder if he was getting childish or whether it was Leo and Leo's just projecting. Given his other videos, I think the latter is probably more likely. Professor Brian Myers, I've never heard of him. Has anyone heard of him?
But I will admit, actually, that guy was one of the very few people that's ever triggered me online. I don't know what it was. It's just his childish insults and stuff. It actually did get a reaction. Usually I just laugh. So fair play to him for that. But like I say, it just quickly descended into like him acting like a spoiled, silly child. Crazy to see, and quite sad. The next experience wasn't much better. It's with a guy called, I think it was PhD Tony. Again, I was asking for physical proof of things, not falling for the sophist arguments, not falling for the stargazing fantasies. I simply wanted him to cite practical references that could be tested and verified by all that would back the globe claims. Do you know what he said? He wished me dead.
And I find that very, very hard to believe. It'd be nice if Leo gave us some evidence that this actually happened. But so far, he's given us nothing. He's demonstrated nothing. What a surprise.
Yeah, serious. Wished me dead because I asked for physical demonstrations that would prove the globe Earth theory. Couldn't admit it. It was a belief. That would be the powerful thing to do. Even if you actually, you're a professor and you believe the globe, but you can't prove it. The powerful thing to do is just to admit it's a belief. Don't be scared to admit it.
But there's no point to do that because it's clearly not. PhD Tony has a YouTube channel that is full of globe evidence, demonstrable evidence. He does a lot of seismology. Seismology itself proves the globe because it wouldn't work on a flat Earth. In fact, his PhD thesis was on that. And it was accepted because it was true. Just look it up, Leo, or Adam, I should say. If you can't find it for yourself, you're not trying.
You can't prove it. These people get such hard shells of delusion.
Yes, he's definitely projecting. No one has a harder shell of delusion than Adam.
Lose touch with reality and real people. And the problem is then they start to project their own failings, lies, misrepresenting.
So he's projecting the fact that he's projecting now.
Representations and all sorts of silliness. But it is what it is. And finally, a professor that we all know, Philip Bell. Now, I like Phil, but something's not right with Phil these days. Back in the old days, Phil would steam into the comment section like an out-of-control windmill and go toe-to-toe. And I have to say, he was funny, and I quite admired his style. He was willing to go to toe-to-toe with mass groups of people and dish it out, and actually had a great sense of humour. The Professor Bell these days is a sad, sad figure compared to the old Phil Bell.
Not like you at all, is he, Leo? You keep doing this, and it's sad that you just reject anything you're given. That's what's really sad. Again, you're projecting.
It's a shame. The old Phil had great sense of humour, like I said, would steam in like an out-of-control windmill. The new Phil Bell, the current Phil Bell, hasn't got the sense of humour, hasn't got any practicality whatsoever, just has lies and misrepresentations. Fair play, he's not wished me dead, and he's not got all childish with his name calling, although Phil does lie and misrepresent. And this is what these are.
Phil lies and misrepresents. The irony of Leo's doing that, saying that. Every one of his videos is lies and misrepresentations and projection, including this one. If you don't have evidence, you must have got it from the big book of it didn't happen.
Highly educated men who profess the earth to be a ball, but the only evidence they could cite was their childish, silly behaviour.
If this actually did happen, I'm sure they gave you plenty of evidence. You just ignored it.
Or their lies and misrepresentations. What does the education system really do? It certainly doesn't empower you, and it doesn't seem to give you the skill set to own mistakes. See,
how would you possibly know what the skill set was? You're a crane driver.
The higher up the so-called ladder you go, the more deluded, egotistical, and out of touch with being true to yourself you
Jeez, the projection is strong in this one.
become. Crazy stuff. Have a good one, everyone.
Crazy stuff indeed, but not for the reason you think. Goodness me, dear oh dear, or perhaps as my friend Arctic Reflections would.
Oh dear.
Yes, very much so. Oh dear, I feel like I've had a traumatic experience on that one. Let's look at his next one. Let's add the stage. Yep. So this one, it's about it's about the Voyager probe, really, and Adam's incredulity about it.
I'm at space.com. Look at this. NASA's Interstellar Voyager probe gets software updates beamed from 12 billion miles away.
Hear the incredulity in his voice. He's got no evidence against it. He just assumes it's wrong.
Let's have a quick peep. This far into the mission, the engineering team is being faced with lots of challenges. We just don't have a playbook. And we get to see a cartoon. So
A cartoon, a picture of the. Hang on, let's go back to it. There we go. Well, okay, it's going to. Oh, come on. That'll do. Of course, it's a cartoon. It's an artist's impression would be the correct way of doing it, of saying it. Who's going to be a cameraman 12 billion miles away? What else would you expect?
And we get to see a cartoon. So this 1970s spacecraft is getting a software update. You see the problem here? Apparently one update, a software fix, ought to tend to the corrupted data that Voyager 1's been transmitting. Another set to prevent gunk from building up in the spacecraft's thrusters. I got to check this computer out.
What are you laughing at, Leo? You've offered nothing to say that's impossible. You're just all incredulity. And incredulity is no argument whatsoever.
Checking out the spec here for this computer. There are 3 different computer types on the Voyager spacecraft, 2 of each kind, sometimes used for redundancy.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
The computers on board the Voyager probes each have 69 kilobytes of memory. Incredible. And finally, we get to see this incredible computer that was built
in the 1970s. That was a lot.
In the 70s. That, amazingly enough, is actually to this day receiving software updates.
And why is that a problem? As long as you can get a link to it, of course you can send software updates. And it was programmed in the first place. Why can't it be programmed today? Well, it needs the connection. I guess you're worried about the 12 billion miles, but why is that a problem? You need to explain that.
You see it? It makes it obvious for all to see. Even the space fans, nerds, will all agree that this technology isn't receiving software updates to help it remove gunk from its thrusters. No, it's not.
How are we seeing that, Leo? You're not offering evidence of that. You're just showing pictures of the computer.
No, that's ridiculous. And to believe that, you've got to be incredibly naive.
Or incredibly incredulous. Well, no, actually, no. That's wrong. To miss that out of incredulity means that you have to be incredibly ignorant. Anyone who's done anything with computers since that time knows that this is completely possible. It was designed to work with a computer that has that little memory after all. When it left Earth, that was the cutting edge. Anyone who's done anything with computers since that time knows that this is completely possible. It's pure tosh to compare it to computers 50 years later and make some sort of point, but he has to keep the space's fake pantomime up, I guess.
Because those sort of commands wouldn't have been written into that amazing bit of tech that resembles essentially a work disk saw. Just looks like that.
Why do you think that, Leo? Provide your evidence.
But that wouldn't have been written into the code in the 70s, those sort of commands.
Why not? Why not? It was designed to go out into space and go for years. They were always going to have to do software updates.
So how's that going to recognize that? How's that even going to recognize software updates? They told us at space.com.
Because it's designed to do so, and I've just accidentally clicked the wrong buttons.
They told us they'd lost all the technology back in the day anyway.
Now he's conflating two things. Hey, Flat Derps here. How are you? How are you? Yeah, I forget your name. Ash, that's it. It's good to see you, Ash. I love your videos. Yes, he's conflating Don Petit, saying that we lost the technology to go to the moon. And with this, which is the same technology, you could say. We haven't lost it, we're still in contact with it. Yes, Leo. Your incredulity knows no bounds, does it? Now this, no, I might skip over that one. It's a little bit nasty. We'll come back to it well, we're going all right on time. Maybe we'll come back to it. It was one about some guy who accused Leo of something, and Leo didn't like it very much. Anyway, let's see this one. It's got Jim Carrey in it.
Yeah. And they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
So a comedian does a comedy routine, and somehow Leo thinks that's a point.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah.
1969, supposed moon landing, right? They've landed. They did a few wheel spins on the moon, played a bit of golf, jumped back in the lander. They're now flying back to the orbiter where Michael
Wrong again, Leo. Jeez, the golf thing was Apollo 15. It wasn't Apollo 11. They didn't have time. They had like 2 hours.
Collins is filming them. This is where we join the action. Let's have a look.
And I must apologize for the noise. The video that he's watching is an old documentary, and for some reason they put this really weird noise on it.
Notice around the craft, you're going to see a thin line all around the outside of the craft that's blurred. That gives you the impression it's been layered in, all right?
No, Leo. You're looking at a relatively dark object in front of a relatively bright object. So the edges of it will be well defined by contrast. You're just imagining you're seeing something.
Fake, obviously.
Fake, obviously, but he offers no evidence whatsoever that it actually is fake. He just offers an explanation which is easily dismissed for the reasons I gave.
The Eagle had left the moon and returned to Columbia.
Also, the resolution isn't brilliant either. So, of course you'll get some blurring.
I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if Neil and Buzz, when they were on the moon, they picked some wild mushrooms and got hungry on the way back and things got a bit trippy or what. I don't know. But the music they're playing here is bang on for Neil's driving because he's all over this shot.
How do you know what the driving should look like, Leo? How many times have you flown a lunar module?
Within this strange ship, 2 astronauts and a treasure. Triple sealed vacuum boxes of rocks and soil from the surface of the moon.
Just watch the way this craft maneuvers around. If you can't see this is fake, there's no hope.
But you didn't offer any reason why it's fake. You just said it was. Just incredulity. It's all you have.
Locked within these rocks were secrets of the ages to be studied and deciphered by the scientists of Earth. The age of the moon.
How'd you work out the age of the moon from some petrified wood?
The age of the sun.
Again, he's conflating one conspiracy theory with another. The petrified wood was a mistake. Someone stole, when they came back from the moon, bits and pieces of some moon rocks were presented to all the countries of the earth, I think, from memory. And the one that was given to Holland was stolen and replaced with a bit of petrified wood. And then they discovered that later on. It's irrelevant to this.
Sun.
How'd you work out the age of the sun from petrified wood?
Not from petrified wood, from moon rocks. You can figure that out easily by radioactive decay and things like that.
How the moon was formed.
How do you work out how the moon was formed from petrified wood? A fucking joke, but let's just watch this craft now. Dear oh dear.
If you can joke, well, I hope it's a joke, because otherwise you're showing you're incredibly ignorant.
How life began. Was there ever life on the moon? Was the moon once molten and volcanic, or has it always been cold and dead? Was it once part of the Earth? Or was it a wandering planet captured by the Earth eons ago?
Music's pretty weird.
How hot was the sun 3 billion years ago?
Who gives a flying fuck how hot the sun was?
Well, if we know how hot the sun was 3 billion years ago, we've got some idea what it's going to be in the future. At the very least, if we figure out how the sun works, we understand how we can make use of the sun. That's what science is about, figuring out what reality is like, and then figuring out how we can make use of it.
Supposedly 3 billion years ago. Who cares? You can't prove it, so why even bring it up? Unless it's
They can prove it. That's what they're bringing back from the moon. So they can prove it.
propaganda. You fucking joke this. Moon mission, my arse.
Your ass is where all your thoughts come from.
The only thing about the moon mission that's real is the fact we've been mooned by these clowns since 1969. And now we re-review this footage, bearing in mind, telemetry data's gone, most of the astronauts are gone.
Once again, conflating other conspiracy theories. The telemetry data isn't gone. The tapes on which it was recorded are gone, as it would have been. You're not going to keep tapes for 60 years. Hang on, I lost my cursor. What do you think, Arctic?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The only thing we're left with, which is classed as evidence, is fucking comedy gold footage like this. Fucking moon landing. That's enough for me. I'm out. If anyone believes that the moon landing's real, just after reviewing that footage, then I don't know what to say to you.
And I don't know what to say to you. Caleb, what did you think of the validity of Adam's arguments?
Nuh-uh.
Yep, that's pretty much all he said. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Now, in this one, Adam gets rather philosophical. Let's have a look.
So what is it all about? And where are we? Obviously, the Earth isn't a ball residing in the middle of a vacuum. That's just ridiculous at this point in time. So it leads me back to my original point. What's it all about? And where are we? Are there extra bits of land, like ancient maps have shown? Could we be in one of many different ponds, like people have speculated? Or perhaps we're one of many different realms, like the ancient Japanese thought there were 6 different realms, ranging from hell to heaven. Perhaps this is some big test. Or is this some kind of Westworld type experience that was meant to be fun, that has unfortunately been hijacked by psychopaths? With all the evil going on, the wars, the lies, the slander, the murder.
Well, you're propagating the lies. I don't know why you're so concerned. You seem to be part of it.
The homelessness, the oppression, the poverty. It would be very easy for hatred to reside in our hearts. And of course, that's what's meant to happen. That in itself is a test. Not
Got any evidence for this? Or are you just pulling this out of your ass?
to let the toxic, unfortunate truth of the situation we find ourselves in affect us so much that it makes us unwell. We've got to be empowered by the awkwardness, the difficultness of the situation in dealing with fantasists and a world that seems bonkers in the fact you've got people supposedly going to a place that's scientifically impossible, that's for the benefit of mankind. Yet in every city, in every country across the earth, there's people in poverty and homelessness, barely able to look after themselves, feed, people with needs, special needs being left and abandoned. It's a joke.
Well, I don't deny any of those things happen, of course. That's just the way of the world, and it's always been the way of the world. But compared to, say, 500 years ago, well, first of all, the Earth's population has skyrocketed. 500 years ago, it was about 500 million at the most. And now it's over 8. So obviously, a lot of people are doing well enough to reproduce so much. And we're feeding most of them too. But there are famines, of course, as weather and climate changes. But generally, people are certainly on average income, people are much better off now than they were 500 years ago. So we must be doing something right. And there's lots of things. I mean, I don't have to list them. You could easily look them up. There are lots of things the space program in particular has brought to humanity that we have now that we didn't have before. Not to mention the possibility of going to other planets in sometime in the future, maybe in 500 years. And so that we can solve our overpopulation problems in that regard. Not that I think we're particularly overpopulated. And I think you'll find that the population will top out soon too, because fewer people are having children because they don't need to. They're wealthy enough not to. Let's see what else he's going to go on about.
The globe, of course, is laughable. Space, I'm a huge space fan. I actually love space, particularly old school 60s and 70s space documentaries, stroke propaganda. I think they're brilliant. And of course, they're full of
Of course, none of your videos are propaganda, are they, Leo?
nuggets, absolute gems. And thank goodness for that, because the space and the old school stuff I'm able to laugh at and enjoy, because I am a space fan. Because I've got discernment and I don't have any biases, I'm able to discern fantasy.
Because he has discernment, he's able to and no biases. Have you watched any of your videos, Adam?
From reality. But it would seem the way the world presents itself to us and the amount of chaos and silliness that goes on, it does seem like this is some kind of test. I mean, some people think it's a simulation.
Well, it might seem like that, but what's your evidence for it? How can you assume something based on nothing?
It's a pretty crazy simulation if that's the case. I'll tell you. Like I say, the important thing is,
How do you make that judgment that it's a crazy simulation? Even if it was a simulation, how do you make the judgment that it's crazy? What are you comparing against? You don't know anything else.
to spend your time with people you love and care for, people hopefully that are not negative, you enjoy their company and they're positive people to be around.
Not negative. You've got a body of work that's full of negativity.
Family, friends, really important. Not entertaining liars, delusional people, fantasists, unless you're highlighting it for educational purposes.
But we entertain you because you're hilarious. Your view of reality just makes us laugh. That's why I'm actually doing this show right now.
But you've got to be empowered by these difficult situations that we find ourselves in, because otherwise it'll put you in the ground. It's how you deal with it is what makes life really either fun or hell. Like I said,
This is how I deal with it. I showcase your stupidity.
the ancient Japanese thought that there were 6 realms ranging from hell to heaven. Sometimes this place does feel like hell, the amount of crazy silliness that goes on and how deluded the general populace seem in how little discernment they have to understand.
Again, how do you know you've got discernment? What are you comparing against? You're just assuming you're right. The arrogance of that.
To discern the simple truth. I find it fascinating from a psychological point of view to watch and see supposedly very highly intelligent people struggle with simple truths. Literally, you see the cogs struggling to turn and cope with this information, even though they know it's demonstrably true, but because they've been
No, what they're trying to cope with is your stupidity and your incredulity. That the fact that you assume all these things based on nothing and then reject everything that's actually based on something.
told it's not from the perceived authority, they struggle with it. Fascinating to watch. Again, I make it easy by adding no bias, only other than what can be tested and verified.
Adding no bias. You start off with the assumption everyone else is wrong. How is that not biased?
By all. It's a very crazy situation we find ourselves in. We're
Absolutely. That's why we laugh at you.
tested, particularly people like myself, tested on a regular basis by situations.
You never test anything. Show me one of your videos where you genuinely tested something in a way that has integrity. How can you say that all of science is wrong? The whole point of science is to set it up so that whatever they do does have integrity.
Pantomime artists, fantasists,
you are.
delusional people, and the craziness of the world when you actually understand it and can see it for what it is. It would be very easy to overwhelm you. And a lot of people on supposedly the mainstream side looking at these subjects and defending it, and what you'd class as the truth side, suffer with mental health because of the truth of this situation we find ourselves in. Isn't that pretty? And because people struggle to talk about these things, people have taken their own lives, or people have opened themselves up for toxic things to enter their body because they've let toxicity enter their heart.
And this is the sad thing of Flat Earth. It's a gateway conspiracy to other baseless conspiracies. They don't learn. They just get told what to think by idiots. They don't learn what they need to understand to be able to figure it out for themselves, because they assume that the idiots who are brainwashing them are telling them the truth. But they don't base it on anything because they don't know. You're the classic example, Adam.
It's very important what you do with your time. Like I say, be empowered by the difficult situations. Take regular breaks from difficult situations so you don't overdo it. Be around beautiful people. And be true to yourself.
I would like to know what people Adam's around and whether they consider him a beautiful person. Because based on his videos, it's hard to imagine.
Others. And if you can help others, I mean, that's powerful stuff right there. Helping people in need, genuine people. Feel it in your heart and then act upon it. It's the best thing we can do here while we're here is to be the best people possible.
Adam, based on your videos, you're failing at that. You're spreading misinformation. You're spreading lies. You're not demonstrating anything. And you're certainly not grounded in reality.
A shining example to others. And if it is a test, we'll stand a good chance of passing it. It's a crazy old test at that, I'll tell you. Look after yourselves, whether you believe in a globe Earth or not. You may think I'm hard on you. Listen, you should know my stance by now.
You're not hard on us, Adam. We find you hilarious.
It should be obvious. If you can't see it, go away for a few months and come back, and perhaps you'll grasp my stance. It's very simple. Because of your bias and the psychology at play, normal, intelligent people struggle to discern a man like mine's simple stance. They really do. And it fascinates me. That in itself fascinates me. But some people have gone away and come back and then got it a few months later, taking a rest from it, able to see the situation clearly and grasp the simple, demonstrable truth of the situation we find ourselves in.
Which you haven't outlined.
So let me know your thoughts on where you think we are or what this situation is about. Certainly does feel like a test.
No, I won't say it again. We all know where Adam's mind is at. It's not a happy place. No one wastes their time with this tosh unless they've sort of well, I better not say that. The reason I do this is to stop people being hurt by this misinformation. I want to make it clear to people and give them what the reality actually tells us. That's why I do this at all. Arctic, what did you think about that video from Adam?
This was really stupid.
Pretty right, I think. All right, so one of Adam's favourite people is Don Petit. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm going to play, don't I?
Who still thinks the International Space Station is real? Well, let's have a look. Now, just like I did last week, I'm going to use this citation from the United States Air Force to highlight the absurdity of the International Space Station.
If by instance they were flying at the altitudes that they fly at, and they were opening their helmet up to like scratch their nose, if at that instant they were to lose cabin pressure, the blood in their body would instantaneously boil and be instantaneous death. So we have our pilots, we tell them once they close down, do not open until they land.
Sensible advice. The U-2 pilot flies approximately 70,000 feet, which I think is about 13 miles off the top of my head. And its top speed is 450 miles an hour, okay? And as our friend has just stated here, the reason the U-2 pilots wear their spacesuits is if they were to lose cabin pressure at high altitude and they didn't have their spacesuit on, their blood would boil instantly, okay? And this is where it gets incredibly silly. Now I'm going to let the NASA legend Don Petit highlight the absurdity of the space station for all to see. Fresh off the bat.
So he's taken one concept, the fact that if you've got a low pressure around you, a very low pressure, that you'll die if suddenly the air goes away. And he's applying it to the ISS. Let's see how that works out.
Back of the citation from the United States Air Force. Take it away, Don.
So you have a whole series of O-rings in here, and a shaft that you rotate. So, I mean, like on the space station, how many of these would you have? 7, because we have 7 windows. So what happens if you get a leak on that? Then you have a leak.
So it was a pretty dumb question. There are procedures to deal with leaks on the ISS, and you know, it was just your first reaction is you have a leak. Obviously true. Let's see how Adam reacts to that.
Look at his face. Look at his face. Bearing in mind, the U-2 pilot is several hundred miles supposedly below these people on the space station. And if he had a leak, his blood would boil, which is why he has strict procedures. Of course, one of them is wearing the suit.
Adam, how can you not understand? A leak does not mean all the air suddenly rushes out. It just means it's a leak. You can, if you're careful enough, if you blow up a balloon and you put in a very thin needle into it, it won't pop. And you do it slowly enough, it won't pop. It'll just leak. Similar with the ISS, similar with the U-2 actually, but U-2 is more likely to have a catastrophic failure because of the amount of seals, whereas the ISS has a lot fewer seals because it needs to be up there a lot longer.
But strangely enough, if you have a leak on the International Space Station, well, you have a leak. And it would seem this legend from NASA.
Yes, and the look on his face is, it's so obvious you have a leak. That's the look on his face. He's saying, dumb question.
Doesn't have a Scooby-Doo clue what to do to fix it.
How do you know that, Leo? You haven't given him a chance to actually say anything yet.
Despite the fact, from a citation of the United States Air Force, from what they've told us, these people would die instantly.
Again, it depends on how big the leak is. If it was a big hole in the side of the ISS, yes, that would probably happen. But if it was just a tiny pinhole, no, you just have, the air can't, the molecules are too big to go through all at once. It'll be a slow leak like it would be on anything, really. That can be repaired. fact, you could just put your hand over it. And I think it's because, like most flirts, Adam thinks vacuums suck. No, it's just pressure. Moving from high pressure to low pressure.
You'd have procedures that would save your life under these circumstances
Yes, you
drilled
would.
into you, where it'd be second nature.
Yes, the ISS astronauts are trained in those procedures on how to deal with the leak. In fact, they have to check their space station every day for leaks because there are micro meteor impacts. But they're usually infinitesimal. So you'd have to go through and look for them. And you don't, because you don't want to lose all your air eventually. But it's never catastrophic unless it was a massive meteor, which is hardly going to happen in Earth orbit.
So you'd act like that should you have issues. But if you have a leak, you have a leak.
You just have a leak. And what you would do is lose air. Yeah, you would probably seal the whole cupola off.
Probably. He doesn't have a clue.
He doesn't have a clue because he said you'd seal off the... And you just said that he doesn't know how to do it. He'd say he'd seal it off. Yeah, you're not even listening.
What the procedures are. How obvious do these people need to make it for you? The United States Air Force is rubbish to space anyway, with their citation from the spy plane. The space shuttle got annihilated last week from the citation from the United States Air Force. And now the space station itself has just been annihilated with the help of Don Pettit, who's highlighted...
He's done the exact opposite. He's told you what he'd do. You're saying he hasn't. Didn't you listen?
How ridiculous this space story really is.
And then there's probably a plan. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably a plan for...
The fact you don't know the plan off the top of your head.
Well, this is several years after he retired from being an astronaut. He's just being a science communicator now. So he doesn't remember everything off by heart. It's not that important to him right now. He's been on Earth for a while. Why would you expect him to know it off the top of his head? But he's saying he doesn't know off the top of his head because he knows he can easily go and find it out and tell you. That doesn't mean he doesn't have one. Do you not know how words work?
Really exposes you for the pantomime star that you really are. You're not a spaceman in any shape or form. You're a pantomime character that acts up for naive individuals so you can tickle
The projection is strong in this one.
their delusional hotspot and make them feel like reality is exactly the opposite to what can be tested and verified by all.
The fact that he's an astronaut means that he has tested reality, and it's the opposite of what you say.
It's crazy.
Placing the mechanism might require a spacewalk. So my question is, how can you operate the lid on the outside of the space station by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure? It's called real good engineering.
Shocking, Don. Look at his face. Even though he's a liar, a fraud.
Well, first of all, his face looks like that because it was another dumb question. You built it to do that because that's what you need it to do. What a dumb question. And a liar and a fraud, you haven't proven that in any way.
A pantomime star. I can't help but like him. He is the gift that keeps giving, and so is the United States Air Force. Thank you very much, guys, for highlighting how ridiculous the space station is. And of course, the space shuttle.
Yeah, Wally said things about Adam priming people. And that's all Adam does. He spends the beginning of the video priming people to believe, oh, it's all nonsense. And then he shows things that actually show the exact opposite. But because you've been primed, you assume that what Adam's saying is correct.
When we looked at it last week, you can't have these double standards. You just can't. We know one's real, the United States Air Force. It's been verified time and time again. But this silly pantomime, known as the International Space Station, can't be verified other than looking up and seeing something fly across the sky. That doesn't mean there's a space station orbiting a scientifically impossible ball in a vacuum. Of course it doesn't. It
How? How is that the case?
just means there's something flying about at high altitude.
We've got pictures of it, and it matches the pictures of the ISS. Are you nuts?
That's it. And our friend here has highlighted the mainstream story of the space station is absolutely ridiculous. And that's not my opinion. That's off the back of a citation from the United States Air Force.
A citation for a completely different craft, which isn't relevant. Honestly, dear oh dear. All right, well, I'm running out of time. I think I had one more, but I'll skip that one today. Maybe I'll get it next week, next fortnight. So let's quickly do meme roundup. And I need that button. All right. And thanks again to Where's Wally for providing me with these memes. I've got a big stack now. It's good. The only thing NASA launched into space was your imagination. Yes. Flirfs just can't. I mean, obviously, it's a fake diagram. That is not what's behind the astronaut. And yeah, Flirfs just can't help but lie, can they? They provide no evidence for what they say, and they lie about what we say. Sundials, not Earth dials, because the sun moves, not the Earth. That's not the point, you idiot. I don't even. That's so stupid. What do you think, Arctic?
This was really stupid.
Yeah. Now here's another one. The rest of the map does not fit on the other side of the Earth image. Oh, God. Hang on. First of all, Mercator projection against the globe. It doesn't even... Why would you even do that? Second of all, this scale is different. Down here is going to be different to what's on the Mercator map. It's so stupid. This bit down here is going to be this bit underneath this white line. I guess they're implying that this isn't covering 50% of the Mercator map. Well, it wouldn't be because you've not got all of the globe being covered by that. It's so obviously wrong that I struggle to even explain it. It flies through the air and over a plane. What shall we call it? An aircraft. It flies through the atmosphere. What shall we call it? Words love to play with words, don't they? Words? Flirfs like to play with words. Because it's pretty much all they have. They don't have understanding to argue from. Something not adding up. So they're giving the dimensions of the moon and the Earth in terms of diameter. And they're showing two pictures, one from the moon, one from the Earth, one of the moon from the Earth, and one from the Earth from the moon. Now, surely anyone who thought about it for more than 2 seconds would see why there's a difference. First of all, zoom. If it was the same camera focal length, etc., there would still be a difference because on Earth there's an atmosphere. On the moon there is not. But this one is zoomed in and this one doesn't appear to be zoomed in. So, you're not comparing apples with apples. So it's a ridiculous meme. And they must have known that, which means it's an utter lie. Beautiful high-res map of flat Earth. Yep. Never been taken. If the moon were a solid object, we should see the shaded part just as we see it in the ping pong ball. Well, no, because the amount of atmosphere between your eyes and that part of the ping pong ball is infinitesimal compared to the amount of atmosphere between you and the moon. Flirfs don't scale. They don't do valid comparisons, and yet they get to the wrong answers. And yes, Jay Tolan, he's known for taking infrared pictures of the Earth to make the horizon more defined. And here is one of his pictures. He also gets landmarks wrong every single time. Look at Ruhif's channel. He's totally destroyed Jay Tolan. And here's one of Jay Tolan's pictures that shows curvature, proving the exact opposite to what he's trying to do. And if you know, you know. Research flat Earth down the bottom. What I want to know about this is, how come we can't see all of Earth? We only see this small section. If it was flat, we should be able to see forever. We don't see far enough. And that's about it. All right. Have you seen a silly meme lately? Just like Wally, send it to me and I'll show it on the stream if it's fit for general consumption, of course. Contact details are in the description of this video. Let me know who you'd like me to look at in the near future by leaving a comment below. I appreciate all suggestions. In fact, I haven't had time to think about tomorrow. My half thought was either Jaren or Flurfs on the X platform. So I'll think about that during today. But you might have a better suggestion. Let me know. Rachel's still unwell, last I heard, so hopefully we'll have her on later in the week. Do the YouTube things. Click the like button. Subscribe. Click join to become a member. Leave a comment. I love to read your comments. And in particular, if you're one of the few who watch my videos who aren't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below this video on your screen. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And I think that just about does it. There's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're despicable.